to Strange Talk with Doc. Hope everything is going good with you, and I hope everything is going good with yours. I'm going to talk about something I don't normally get to do, but it kind of refers to a thing that I hold dear and near to me. I have an open call-in podcast. My number is located anywhere that you see Strange Talk with Doc online, my Twitter, my Facebook, my Instagram. I have a link that somebody and my website have a link so that a person can call in if they feel that I said something that was off base, if something that they disagreed with, even if it was an old subject they want to bring back up and to go over. But what I will not do, what I never ever do, is argue or debate on social media. I refuse to do that. There are people who sit back and they get to enjoy their day watching other people go back and forth in comment sections on forms of social media. I will not be a party to that. I think that's lazy. When you can call in or make a voice recording, it's easy to post a voice recording on your thoughts, your views, and how you feel about any subject that is going on in the world. Now, what that's going to do is not going to waste your time going back and forth. It's not a pointless argument, right? You have to prove that you could shoot off the top of the dome, straight off the head, with no delay, because when you're in the heat of a battle or a debate, there's no checking, there's no Grammarly to check spell, there's no rewind on your brain to say, let's pause this, and that person didn't hear you. What you said is what you mean, and you must mean what you say and say what you mean, and you don't get involved with the back and forth. Does that mean I do not comment on social media? That would be a straight up lie. If I see something, I comment on social media, but I don't reply back to my comment because I said what I meant and I mean what I say. So I don't feel that there's any reason for me to go back and forth with a total stranger on some issue that they may not agree with me on. When I have, like I said, an open podcast, an open call-in podcast, I don't care who you are. I don't debate on subjects or even bother with subjects that I have no expertise. I am not going to tell a surgeon how to do surgery. I am not going to tell a dentist how to clean teeth. I'm not going to tell a mason how to lay bricks. I don't get involved with debates that I cannot, not one win, but that I can't even really learn anything from at the end of the day. It makes no sense. And I think that we shouldn't waste our time doing this. If you find yourself spending 5 to 10% of your day doing nothing but commenting back and forth with people on like Facebook posts or Google or Yahoo or even Daily Mail or whatever it may be, some kind of news group, somebody says something that you don't like and you just go back and forth. I think that you can spend your time doing something more productive. Now, it's your life. You choose to live it the way that you choose to live it, and I have no control over that. I'm not saying that you're right or wrong. I'm just making a point. My point is I think that time could be better spent. You could be doing something more positive than going back and forth and giving other people free entertainment when it's not even a form of supposedly entertainment. You think you're just getting your point across, and there are people sitting in the background cheering both of you on to continue this all day today so they have something to do with themselves. So if you find Doc, call me out. If you find me anywhere, any shape or form, going back and forth on social media with anybody, call me a liar, call me a fraud, call me a fake, and call me a phony. And do it by verbally calling in and telling me what conversation it is. And you know what? Dog me out. I will allow you to do so, because then that will prove that I don't mean what I say and I don't say what I mean. Do I sometimes have to delete posts because I was dead wrong? Yes, I do. I'm not perfect. Sometimes I rethink about something I said and said, maybe I shouldn't have said that. But either way, I never go back and forth. Have I been guilty of doing that in the past? Sure, I have. I'm human. We get caught up in the moment sometimes. But that ship has sailed. I hope that this helps somebody. I hope that somebody thinks about how much time they spend per day going back and forth with strangers on social media sites. And maybe that's time you could be spending studying, working on your craft, spending time with your children, uh, engaging in more conversation with your loved one, things of that nature. Working out, who knows, learning a hobby, anything, something that's going to benefit you at the end of the day other than arguing. So I'm going to move on to the regular portion of the show. So the Trump Corporation and the Trump Payroll Corporation have been found guilty on all counts in the Trump's organization tax fraud trial. Now we're going to see where we go from here. I believe it's only civil. I don't think Trump was even mentioned in this. I don't know how when his name is all over it, but I think this is only financial. We'll see what the DOJ does with this after. So Senator Raphael Warnock actually beat Herschel Walker to win re-election in Georgia. That Georgia Senate runoff race, which should have never happened to begin with. Georgia, why did y'all make us sweat that out? Now Warnock is going to make history. Warnock was elected the very first U.S. black senator for the state of Georgia. And this now gives the Democrat a true majority. It was 51 to 49, but it might be actually 50 to 49 because this lady now claimed that she's independent. But that's not either here nor there, and I don't really want to go into her. I don't want to take any shine off Mr. Warnock becoming a state senator of a southern state, the very first black southern U.S. senator from Georgia. Now, do I think that we should be voting in reverence? No, but there's the lesser of two evils, and the evil was Herschel Walker, who would not have even been able to understand most of the things that were brought to his table. So Raphael Warnock at least comes off as a man of some intelligence, and hopefully he won't see everything biblical when it deals to people. He won't put his views and his do's and don'ts, and he will actually look at things on their basis and merits as opposed to his standing with the church. But we shall see. That jury's out. Brittany Griner. I've been calling this poor woman Brittany Griner for years, but it seems like everybody calls her Brittany Griner. She was finally released from a Russian prison 10 months after her arrest on some bullshit. Now, we knew that this was going to take a while. We already knew from the beginning who was going to be the person that she was going to be traded for. We also knew that nothing was going to happen until after the midterm elections. So it all fell into place. Now, the final day of the midterm election was Tuesday. Brittany was released on Thursday, so it kind of was not shocking when we heard that news, but it was a good thing to wake up to that morning. And a lot of people are screaming and hollering about why Brittany and not Waylon. What you need to do is look back at Waylon's military career. It's documented online. Look it up, and then you tell me who was the lesser of two evils here. Now, I heard some bad news this week. 6 hours P320s having discharges without pulling a trigger. Now, that is incredible. We're talking about a pistol that you might be carrying on your hip. You might be carrying it in not just your hip, your back. You might actually be carrying it in your front. And this thing can go off without being dropped or without a trigger pull. That is deadly. 6 hours got to fix this, man. Now, I did talk about social media and commenting. And this week left me some stuff to comment on. I'm a huge Dallas Cowboy fan. I've been a Dallas Cowboy fan since 1974. That is a long time, people. A very long time. So I predate Jerry Jones. So I'm not going to allow Jerry Jones being the owner of the Cowboys to change my mind about being a Cowboy fan. But MICAHPARSONS making ass holy old remarks about Brittany Griner, Jerry Jones being the owner of the Cowboys and saying some of the foolish things that he does. I mean, it is not always easy being a Dallas Cowboy fan. Dallas Cowboys don't stand up to Jerry. Jerry seems to have guys that go along to get along with his program, but I guess because he financially takes care of them, he gives them a family base that they remain loyal to Jerry. But I'm a fan. I'm loyal to the star. I'm loyal to the Cowboys, not to Jerry Jones. I'm not loyal to Micah Parsons. If he left the Cowboys, it'd be a loss, but I'll get over it because people have come and gone in that organization since I've been a kid. But I'm hoping that Micah Parsons would take the time, just a little bit of time that he needs to investigate what he says out of his mouth and what he posts on Twitter before he just does it out of a sheer emotional viewpoint, because that's not looking at it from all angles. You can't do anything on sheer emotions, especially when your emotions can be proven wrong in a heartbeat. So Law and Order SVU, Detective Amanda Rollins, I believe her name is Kelly Gillish in real life, has finally left the show. I thought it was not that good an episode. I thought it was a shitty little episode. I didn't like the fact that she has to leave the show to begin with. I don't think that she did anything wrong. As a matter of fact, her name is Kelly Giddish. I always liked her on the show. I like her with Carisi. I like that she's a yin to the yang of her boss, Captain Benson. So it's a loss because the other young lady that they brought into SVU, who I don't even know her name. I don't really like her character. I don't like the way she dressed. I don't like how unkempt she always is. I don't like her style. And maybe I will grow to like her like I've always liked most characters in the Law and Order universe. But as of now, Amanda Rollins leaving, this bullshit that she's automatically going to be a professor at Fordham University makes no sense, but it beats her character being murdered. Maybe in a year or so, and this other lady doesn't work out, Amanda Rollins shows back up at the office of SVU and retakes over her position. But the show seems like it's towards the end. It seriously seems like it needs to be towards the end of SVU, just as though Saturday Night Live, which had Martin Short and Steve Martin as the host this weekend, and a lady named Belinda Carl, it was horrendous. It was almost unwatchable. The best skit of the whole evening was Scrooge. You know, the famous Scrooge in the balcony scene, but they did a comedic take on it, which was really a horror. It was worse than anything really in the original Scrooge. So for that one, I got a couple of giggles, but the show in itself was horrible. And Saturday Night Live, I'm sure, is trying to last to 50 years, but if they're going to crawl to 50 with no respect for the fan base, no respect for the actors and actresses and comedians on the show, then they better off closing up shop. Just to have a record of being on the air 50 years, but putting out a bad product makes no sense. Congratulations to USC quarterback Caleb Williams on winning the 2022 Heisman Trophy Award. I wish he would have had one more good game in him versus Utah so that USC would be in the playoffs, but that didn't happen. Now they go to a bowl game. If I'm him, I have to think about, do I even want to be in this bowl game, or do I focus on being drafted in the NFL and getting that squared away and enjoying my holidays? But whatever Khalid decides on, I wish him no injury. I wish he makes it through that bowl game safe and healthy and moves on and has a distinguished career for whatever team he plays for in the NFL. So Aaron Judge is going to stay in the Bronx, people. The slugger and reigning AL MVP re-signed with the Yankees, 9 years, $360 million. Now, this deal is overpaying Aaron Judge. I did not appreciate how Aaron Judge played in the playoffs against Houston with all the strikeouts. That was a moment to shine, not during the season hitting all those home runs. Nobody really cares about all those home runs. That's a personal record. It doesn't help the Yankees. It doesn't really help the Yankee fans. But the Yankees are really paying for the next 4 to 5 years. The last 4 to 5 years of this deal, he'll be an older gentleman in his upper 30s. And this is usually when people start to decline. Just look at Giancarlo Stanton and all those years that he received. I mean, to give a 30, 31-year-old a 9-year deal, but they couldn't afford to lose Aaron Judge because this would have been an embarrassment for the New York Yankees. So I'm glad that he's there. With his bat, maybe Stanton can stay healthy for more than 3 or 4 weeks at a time. The Yankees should be in playoff contention, especially if they get pitching. So we had a big UFC card this weekend. Jan Blachowicz fought Magomed Ankalaev, and they fought to a split decision. I thought Ankalaev actually won this bout, but you know what? The judging and the refereeing on this particular card was a little flaky. And another reason I say that is Paddy Pimblett defeated Jared Gordon by unanimous decision on all 3 judges' cards, 29-28. And nowhere in the world did Jared Gordon lose this match to Paddy Pimblett. Paddy Pimblett got a Dana White decision, a I'm pushing this kid decision to make sure that he gets to where I need him to go. And you know what? The UFC is already having problems in Canada with betting because of James Krause. Now, if you have New York and Las Vegas looking into bad decisions like this, and UFC cannot be a bettable sport, it could kill and hurt this industry. They need to straighten this out ASAP. I mean, not tomorrow. They need to straighten this out today. We also had Juris Duplessis for Darren Till. He beat him by submission in the 3rd round. People were calling Darren Till saying he quit. That's bullshit. He got beat. Bryce Mitchell for Ili Taparia, and Taparia beat him by arm triangle. It really wasn't even that close a fight. Jay Perlin for Raul Rosa Jr., an 18-year-old who had no issues, no problems putting on this rear naked choke in round 1 and beating Jay Perrin. If Raul Rosa Jr. fights like this all the time, he's like a spider monkey. I mean, he seems stronger than his age should say that he is. He looks like the future, but we shall see going forward. Joshua Rosenstruck fought Chris Dawkins. He jumped on Dawkins from bell ring and finished this fight in 23 seconds of the 1st round. One of my favorites, Chris Curtis, who doesn't get the proper respect I think he deserves, he fought Joaquin Buckley, and he knocked out Buckley 249 of round 2. They seem to be having some kind of personal beef. I don't know what it was, but I thought it was very interesting. And Chris Curtis just boxed him down and hit him with a beautiful punch. And pretty much just, that was it. Just go to the ground, land a couple more, and it was over. There was a lot of blood on this card. There was a lot of knockouts. There was another knockout. Quantrino knocked out Alexander Hernandez. Salomon, who was debuting, won by technical knockout over Steven Kozlov. This fight was a little controversial to me also because Salomon landed a knee to Kozlov's head in the 1st round. Undefended knee directly to the head. Kozlov could have actually probably won this fight on disqualification, but it seems like the judges, and this is another one of Dana's boys, this Cameron Solomon, the judges was all over him. The doctor was up in his face, and it was like they were kind of rushing him to make sure that he restarted the fight. I thought it was kind of weird. Now, next week, we got UFC 66. from Vegas. It's going to be on ESPN Plus if you have ESPN Plus. The main event is Cannonier is going up against Sean Strickland. Now, also on this card is not a lot of what you would call names, but when you don't have these huge names, sometimes you have the best cards. But Jarrett versus Sean Strickland should be a barn burner to begin with. Now, I just want to go through some stuff in basketball real quick. In the Eastern Conference, the best team in the Eastern Conference right now is the Boston Celtics with a 21-6 record. Milwaukee is second with a 19-7 record. The Cleveland Cavaliers are very surprising. They're 17-10. Brooklyn has seemed to straighten it out a little bit. They're 16-12. Philly is 14-12. Atlanta is 14-3. Indiana is 14-3. The Knicks is 14-3. Toronto is 13-14. Miami is 12-15. Now, those would be your playoff teams if the season ended now. Now, we're about at the quarter mark of the NBA season. That's why I'm giving you the records. Some teams that are underachieving, as far as I'm concerned, is Chicago Bulls at 11-15 right now. They're a couple of games out of contention. And the team picking up the rear is the Detroit Pistons with the worst team in the Eastern Conference at 7-22. Now in the Western Conference, the Pelicans, New Orleans Pelicans, with a healthy Zion Williams, have the best record in the Western Conference, 18-8. Memphis and Ja Morant is 17-9. Denver is 16-10. Phoenix is 16-11. Sacramento, who I didn't even think to be over 500, is 14-11. Portland is 14-12. The Clippers are 15-13. Golden State is 14-13. The Jazz are 15-14. And closing out, if the playoffs started today, is the Timberwolves at 500, 13-13. Dallas is on their trail at 13-13. The Lakers are stinking up the joint. They're 11-15. And San Antonio and Houston are both in the rear of the NBA in the Western Conference with a record of 8-18 each. Now, the games that I can consider the games of the week coming up this week are Monday, you got the Timberwolves versus the Trailblazers. The Celtics versus the Clippers. We'll see if Mr. Leonard plays or not. It's always up in the air. Tuesday, you got the Warriors versus the Bucks. You also have the Pelicans versus the Jazz. Wednesday, the Knicks are playing the Bulls. Thursday, the Bucks are playing the Grizz. Then we go into, Suns, Clippers. Friday, you got the Nets versus the Raptors. The Warriors versus the 76ers. Saturday is the Mavs versus the Cavs. The Heat versus my Spurs. Sunday, you got the Warriors versus the Raptors. This week, the Rams claimed Baker Mayfield off waivers. Baker Mayfield then led the Rams to a 17-16 victory on Thursday night over the Raiders. He hit a 23-yard touchdown pass to Van Jefferson with 10 seconds left to play on a 98-yard drive with no timeouts. He actually led them to 2 touchdown drives in the fourth quarter. So, you know what? This is a storybook beginning for Baker Mayfield with the Los Angeles Rams. But we'll see how this goes on moving forward, because the Rams are not a very good team. As the defending Super Bowl champs, they pretty much suck. Now, yesterday, Sunday in the NFL, the Ravens beat the Steelers. The Ravens' running game went crazy. They ran for over 200 yards. J.K. Dobbins rushed for 120 yards and a TD. The other big news from this game is Kenny Pinkett suffered a concussion. The Eagles beat the Giants in a blowout, 48-14. The Eagles clinched their playoff. Jalen Hurts threw 2 touchdowns and ran for another. Jalen Hurts became the first quarterback in NFL history to rush for at least 10 touchdowns in consecutive years. Miles Sanders ran for 144 yards. He had touchdown runs of 3 and 40 yards, and he hit the 1,000-yard mark. The Bills beat the Jets 20-12. Josh Allen was 16 for 27 for 147 yards and 1 touchdown. He also rushed for 48 yards and a touchdown. Both defenses were outstanding in this game, so you're not going to see crazy stats. The Bengals beat the Browns 23-10. The Bengals finally stopped that 5-game losing streak versus the Browns, and Cincinnati actually is now on a 5-game winning streak all on their own. Deshaun Watson didn't play bad. He threw for 276. He had an interception and 1 touchdown. Jamar Chase finished the game with 119 yards receiving and a touchdown on 10 catches. Chase now, that was his 20th touchdown of his career, and it makes him and Hall of Famer Randy Moss the only players in NFL history with 2,000 or more receiving yards and 20 or more receiving touchdowns at the age of 22 or younger. Man, Chase numbers, if he continues to do what he does and he gets to play 7 or 8 more years, maybe 10, his numbers should be outstanding. In a game that was way too close, that was too much of a nail-biter for my liking, the Cowboys beat the Texans 27-23. Dak Prescott directed a 98-yard touchdown drive, and Ezekiel Elliott scored on a short touchdown run with 41 seconds remaining. Cowboys avoided a major upset here, people. I think the Cowboys spend too much time when they have a good week reading their press clippings, feeling good about themselves, going online begging for all-star votes, instead of focusing on the job at hand. You got Philly out there balling out. The Cowboys need to be focused on one thing and one thing only, playing A-level football, put some fear of God in other teams as they move forward in the season. Not these, it's a bad team and barely win. I mean, because they got Jacksonville next week. Are they going to play down the Jacksonville standard, or are they going to play an A-caliber game like they did against Minnesota? And speaking of Jacksonville beat the Titans 36-22. Trevor Lawrence had a career-high 368 yards and 3 touchdowns. He also ran for a score. This snapped a 5-game losing streak against the Titans, and it was just their second victory in this series in the last 11 games. So Tennessee has been owning them. Evan Ingram, the ex-Giant, had a career day. He had 162 yards receiving on 11 catches and 2 touchdowns. Derrick Henry was going off in the first half, and they held him in check. I believe he only rushed for 2 yards in total in the second half of this game. The Lions beat the Vikings. Thank you, Lions. 34-23. Justin Jefferson had a franchise record 223 yards receiving. I would have thought Randy Moss would have more than that, but I'm wrong. Detroit piled up 464 total yards, and this is their 5th win in the last 6 games. The Chiefs beat the Broncos 34-28. This is the 10th straight loss for the Broncos. Patrick Mahomes was not magnificent, but he was more than serviceable. He was 28 for 42, 352 yards. He had 3 touchdowns, but he had 3 interceptions. He made 1 touchdown pass that was like straight out of the NBA, a no-look shovel pass ahead of him to a wide receiver. I mean, that shit was like Steph Curry or Magic Johnson. But you know what? He's got to sharpen up on the interceptions. Willie Gay had a pick 6 against Russell Wilson, and Russell Wilson left the game with a concussion. If I am the Broncos, I say this season, especially when you have 10 straight losses, this season is shot. I sit Russell Wilson down for the remainder of the year and try to fix whatever is wrong with Russell. I don't care what it is. I just have Russell working on his progressions. I have Russell practicing with the team, but no more playing. The Panthers beat the Seahawks. This was a bad loss for the Seahawks, 30-24. Sam Darnold threw for 1 touchdown pass. Chuba Hubbard Raheem Bashir both had rushing touchdowns, but it was a three-headed monster. Deontay Freeman, Hubbard, and Bashir ran all over Seattle's defense for 223 yards. The 49ers beat the Buccaneers 35-7. Deebo and Samuels got injured. Brock Purdy, in his first start, Mr. Irrelevant, threw 2 touchdown passes and ran for another. Christian McCaffrey came over and did what he was supposed to do as a person coming to the team. He ran for 119 yards and a TD. Tom Brady, this last season with the Bucs, have been a total and utter failure. I don't care what anybody says. They are no threat to do any damage to anybody come playoffs. He should have retired. If you ask me, he should have retired when the chance was there before the season. There was no reason to come back. He seems to have no kind of flow with anybody on the squad. Godwin, Evans, Fournette is a step slower. They lost people on defense. This is just not a very good Buccaneers team. The Dolphins and Chargers. Justin Herbert beat the Dolphins in this game. He threw for 367 yards and a touchdown and completed a career-high 39 passes on 51 attempts for his 21st 300-yard game. He became the first NFL quarterback to throw for 13,000 yards in his first 3 seasons. The Chargers are up and down. Herbert always going to get his numbers. The Dolphins are really bottoming out at the wrong time. They're not that same scary team that people have been overhyping on ESPN week after week after week, because this is the second loss in a row for the Dolphins. Now, the Monday night game is the Patriots are going into Arizona to play the Cards. I believe both of these teams are coming off of buys. The Cards are at home. They really desperately need this win. I'm going to actually pick Kyler Murray and Watson to get their shit together and maybe even get Robbie involved and actually win this game. Now, we are going into what we consider the last quarter of the season. So I just want to give you a quick breakdown of where teams sit. Your playoff teams in the AFC would be Buffalo at 10-3, Kansas City at 10-3, Baltimore at 9-4, Tennessee at 7-6, Cincinnati at 9-4, Miami at 8-5, and the LA Chargers at 7-6. Now you got a bunch of teams who are right behind them, like the Jets 7-6, New England 6-6, Jacksonville 5-8. But then you have teams like the Houston, which is 1-11-1, done for the season. Pittsburgh 5-8. Most people wouldn't have thought they'd be that bad. The Raiders 5-8. In the NFC, you got Philadelphia with the best record in all of NFL, 12-1. Minnesota 10-3, San Francisco 9-4, Tampa Bay, because they're in such bad division, they are leading their division with a 6-7 records. You got the Dallas Cowboys at 10-3. The Giants and Washington Commanders are both 7-5-1. Seattle fell out of playoff race yesterday. They are 7-6. Detroit is in contention at 6-7. So these last weeks coming up are very big. But those were the teams that I announced would be your playoff teams if the season ended right now. Now, next week's game, San Francisco is going into Seattle on Thursday night. We'll see if Brock Purdy can stay Purdy or not. I don't like the way Seattle played. I like San Francisco. It's got to be a heavy dose of McCaffrey. So I'm going to actually pick San Francisco to beat Seattle. Miami is going into Buffalo. Buffalo's offense hasn't been clicking. Miami's offense hasn't been clicking. But maybe the cold weather in Buffalo will be a payback for that hot weather that they had to deal with when they went to play the Dolphins early in the year. So I'm picking Buffalo. Baltimore is playing Cleveland. I'm going with Baltimore. The Colts are playing Minneapolis or Minnesota. Vikings. I think the Vikings actually hand Jeff Saturday another loss. We got the Hawks. Atlanta Falcons are taking on the New Orleans Saints. They both were coming off a bye. I got the Saints losing to Atlanta. Even though I don't feel too good about that because they're benching Mariota, and I don't understand why. I thought he played hard for them. The Giants play Washington. The last time these two teams played, which was about a week or so ago, they tied each other. This time I have Washington outright beating them. We got Philly going into Chicago. As long as they don't take Chicago for granted, they will destroy Chicago. The Lions are going to play the Jets in New York. The Lions' offense is too powerful. I like the Lions in this game. Pittsburgh is going to play Carolina, and Carolina, I like Carolina. Dallas is going into Jacksonville. If Dallas is about their business and not spending the week bullshitting on social media and other distractions, I have the Cowboys beating Jacksonville. KC is going into Houston to demolish the Texans. Cardinals are going into Denver. They should beat Denver. The Titans need a bounce back game, and they're playing the Chargers in LA, and I think they get it. The Bengals offense is just too potent for Tampa Bay's offense to keep up with. So I got Cincinnati. And the Saints, New England Patriots are playing the Las Vegas Raiders on your Sunday night game. I got, I got the Raiders actually bouncing back and holding serve at home. Not that it means anything. And then Monday night football game, which should have been moved, to tell you the truth, because these are two very bad teams. The Rams are going in to play Green Bay Monday night. And I would say, it's kind of flaky. Just because it's dramatic and it's nonsense, some way or another, Aaron Rodgers will find a way to beat the Rams, and then we have to hear more about Aaron Rodgers daily on these sports talk shows. That's just the way it goes in life. The people that you don't want to hear about the most are the people you hear about the most. So, and then the following week, on 12/19, I will not be here, but the NFL will be having, that will be week 16. Check your local listings, ESPN, CBS Sports, to find out who the games will be. But on 12/19, I'm going to do my best of Strange Talk with Doc, just the fourth quarter episodes. I might have a lead into the show, but most of the stuff will be the bits and clips, the best bits and clips of everything that I said between September and December, because this will be my actual last, what you would call, live show to the year-end wrap-up, which I believe I'm doing on 12/28. On 12/28, I am doing year in review, 2022, the year in review, the best of news, sports, television, music, RIPs, things of that nature. It's not going to be a lot of stuff where I add my viewpoints, but about a lot of stuff that actually did happen. And if you get a chance, remember, don't spend all your time arguing with somebody you don't know on social media. Okay, put it this way, arguing even with somebody you know on social media. Try to spend that time more productive. Make your point. Think about what your point may be. Make your point. Stand on your sword when you make that point, so you don't have to debate. You could just say, I refer back to what I said above, and that's it. And if you argue with somebody who has a platform, a podcast, have the balls to actually call into that podcast. If you can shoot off the top of the head, if you got some verbal skills, if you have the ability to put your tongue, your brain, your heart, and your emotions all into one and direct it in a path that makes some kind of sense, argue with your mouth. Don't do it with your fingers. It's a lot more respect when you shoot off the top of the head, especially when it's bang, bang, boom, boom. You're on the spot when you're in an argument. Like I said, there is no Grammarly. There's nothing to correct you as you go along. I'm not a perfect podcaster. I slip up. I say ahs. I have pauses. I don't go back and edit them out so that you think that I'm this person who just flows. No, but off the top of my head, I am making up what I'm thinking about. I'm not reading off a script. I'm not following some kind of blueprint that I have to do each and every time. If a thought comes to me while I'm talking about something, I run with it because it's something I believe in and it's organic. And as long as it's organic, you can rock with it. And I'm going to tell you, like I tell you each and every time, people, peace to you and peace to yours.